again. So this video is 13 months after having my tonsils out. It's within the COVID lockdowns. I've been shielding now as a clinically vulnerable person for 11 months. Yeah, 11 months. And it's the end of November, so it's nearly Christmas, and just like lots of people across the country in lockdown, we're all super bored, and we've all put our Christmas trees up far too early. So never mind. So this video is going to be like a recap of my health after my tonsillectomy, and things that I've been doing to keep myself well, not just since my tonsillectomy, but also with coronavirus hitting the country, well, the world, but how it's affecting us here in England, and also the fact that I got pregnant and had a baby boy in lockdown as well. He's just having a little snooze, which is why I can make this video. So it's been quite an eventful year since I last made a video about ITP and splenectomies. So in my last entry I was pretty upset. I was living on and off with infections ever since having my spleen out, and the most current infection I'd had was in my tonsils for a year, on and off, to the point where I was very sick all the time, always run down, always on antibiotics, and it just felt like nothing would ever get better, and I was just, going from removing my spleen to removing my tonsils, and I thought, well, if I have my tonsils removed, what's the next thing that I'm going to have removed? So it was a bit depressing and everything, but what I can say is that since having my tonsils removed, my health just improved so drastically that although I'd been in a committed relationship where I was very active sexually for years, I'd never got pregnant, and I was just using one of these natural cycle apps, so I wasn't using any other form of contraception, and within a month and a half of having my tonsils out, I got pregnant, and I genuinely believe that it is down to having my tonsils out. I think that my body has been so run down with infection for such a long time that it wasn't well enough to conceive. And with my previous ITP history, I never thought it was something that I would be able to do well and to do healthily. And what I can tell you is that for anybody out there who has ITP, whether it's active, whether it's in remission, and you're worried about getting pregnant because it can sometimes bring you out of remission. I had the most fantastic pregnancy. My platelets went up and up and up, and they only started to drop in the last 2 months of my pregnancy. And because they'd gone up really well, there was loads of room for them to drop, so they didn't drop to a dangerous level. I didn't have any infections, and my son is incredibly healthy, and I didn't pass on the condition to him, and I'm really thankful for that. Of course, what I think has made me well, which is a difficult thing to reconcile with, because obviously COVID is an awful thing that we're all having to deal with in different ways. Many people have lost their lives. Many people will be scarred on their lungs, potentially for life, having contracted COVID and got over it. But I think if I would have had to have commuted daily to work still during my pregnancy on trains, I think I would have gotten really sick. I think the reason my pregnancy was so good and I had no problems and I was very healthy was because I'd had my tonsils out. There wasn't anywhere now for bacteria to sit. And then within a couple months of getting pregnant, we went into lockdown. I was put on the clinically vulnerable list and I've been working remotely from home for 11 months. And I've not really left my house. Other than hospital appointments and seeing limited family and friends here and there. I don't go shopping. I don't go to restaurants. I don't go to bars. I haven't been anywhere. I go for walks out in nature. I do my yoga every day. I make food completely from scratch. I'm still not eating my sugar and my dairy, which I think has greatly contributed to my health because I've drastically reduced the inflammatory markers in my body, which means that if your body is less inflamed, it can deal with toxins better. There's less toxins there, and if there is bacteria or there is virus, it can fight it better because there's nothing in your diet that's feeding bad bacteria in the same way as if you're constantly eating sugar and dairy. So I was active every day. I did yoga every day during my pregnancy up until the 2 weeks before I gave birth, and I think my body was able to just rest in one environment, in a safe and clean environment where I wasn't mixing with other people really, and I could control my diet. I took an array of vitamins all the way through, which are some of the ones that I said before. If you're dealing with ITP and you've had a splenectomy and now you're living on the other side of a splenectomy, I absolutely recommend zinc, garlic, B12, acidophilus, which I take a double dose of a day because, especially if you're female, it just puts good bacteria back into your stomach, which if you're on antibiotics, that kills that off quite quickly. I took folic acid and vitamin D all the way through my pregnancy, and I took silica as well, which is a good one for strengthening hair and nails and bones. Really important if you're on antibiotic therapy for life after a splenectomy. Also, I ignored my doctors who tell me to take 2 a day, and I'm taking 1 a day. Originally, I completely removed antibiotics from my daily routine, and I did get sick, and I could feel that I was always a bit run down, and so I do think it is important to have some antibiotic therapy if you're a bit fragile and prone to infection naturally, which I think I am. But you do, from my point of view, you don't need the 2. They don't do that much. It's just a baseline. It just gives you a little bit of coverage. If you've got an active infection, it's not going to do anything. So, and the longer you take 2 a day, the less effective stronger dosages are going to be at helping you combat infection when you do have infection. So the routine I have now, which has worked for me, I'm not saying it's going to work for other people. However, I've had my spleen removed now 5 years, and I had ITP for 3 years before that, and it's taken me 3.5 to 4 years of trying everything that's been suggested to me to get this routine and mix of things that works for me right. Is that I take my antibiotic in the morning, and then I make sure I'm having 3 meals a day, and they're good meals. I don't have any dairy. I'm on soy instead, which obviously might not be a preferred thing if you're male. I know that it's definitely really helped me being pregnant because of the extra estrogen and stuff. I've definitely found that my milk production with breastfeeding is really good, because I'm having quite a copious amount of soy every day. I do not have sugar or dairy in my diet. It is quite hard. I do have to cook everything from scratch, but I found that cutting that out meant I haven't had water infections or thrush ever since I've cut that out. I haven't got any issues with fungal infections like ringworm on my skin or my scalp anymore. It all just went away. And so I ended up being able to cut out all of the other medications I was taking for all of these odd things that I'd developed over the years of just taking antibiotics over and over and over, and my body getting tired of it and not being able to fight stuff off anymore naturally. So I went down to 1 antibiotic a day. Obviously had my tonsils out, which was the massive thing that made, everything just clicked into place after that. And I don't have the sugar and dairy. I still have natural sugars. I'll have yogurts, Greek yogurts and things like that, but I'm talking, yes, things like chocolate, but also jar sauce. I'm telling you, you turn around and you have a look at what's on the back of jar sauce and the amount of sugar they put in for taste and preserving it. It's mental, and it doesn't even taste that good most of the time. You can make really good sauces yourself which taste far better and don't have any sugar in them. Same with breads. If you pick up Warburton's sliced toasty bread, turn it around and look at the amount of sugar in it. So I've switched to rye breads, sourdoughs, which are fermented and just better for you. They have a bit of sugar, but it's not the same amount, because you don't really need sugar to make sourdough in the same way. So I'm doing that, and then I take all of my vitamins on a night time, because penicillin has a half-life of 6 hours. So it covers you in the daytime when you're active and you're probably going out and you're meeting people. But then when you hit your night time, when you're not going to be eating anything else, you're just going to be going to sleep, it gives your body that time to digest and to use all the vitamins in that repair stage of the day, where your body goes to sleep and it uses whatever's in your system to repair cells and any damage that's been done, which is why you wake up feeling refreshed the next day. So putting all of the vitamins in at night, I found really works, because it won't interact with the penicillin. It's less likely to be damaged or kind of destroyed by the penicillin in the gut, and then it's all been absorbed by the time you wake up the following morning to take the penicillin again. So that's what I found works for me, and I found real benefits to that, just because I can tell it's working. Like the silica, for example, my hair's ridiculously thick and long. The acidophilus, I don't have any problems anymore with any sort of yeast based issues that I used to. I can feel a difference doing it that way than when I used to take it all together, and you'd end up just destroying what you're putting in anyway. You might as well not bother having them. And what I also have learned is the days that I don't exercise, I am exhausted, and my joints hurt, and there's all these other side effects to taking antibiotics long term that they don't talk to you about, and breastfeeding as well and things like that, and obviously being more still because we're in lockdown and not really leaving the house, whereas I used to commute. I used to do an hour of walking a day there and back. Your immune system needs exercise to be stimulated, and because I haven't got the spleen anymore, I need to actively engage, like, lymph nodes and things like that in the system, which really respond to exercise. So exercise will release all of those chemicals that kind of remind your body to keep on going, to keep on circulating and putting signals out to, oh, maybe we should check if that's something that we need to deal with in the body. It's keeping it going in a way that the spleen used to, with refreshing blood and fluids in the body for you. But obviously that's not there to do that job anymore, so you need to remind it, you need to keep it going in that way, and exercise does that. And I found that yoga, because it's about the body as a whole, it's really good for circulation, and a lot of the poses, they kickstart certain glands into gear so that they can do their job better, and that's what you want to target, really. I have another friend in America who once spoke to me. She lived without antibiotics, and she said exercise was the thing that kept her going, that you need to be sweating stuff out of your body, because internally, you've not got the same system to fight things anymore. So you need to consciously make an effort to inspire, to kickstart your body to do that through movement, through sweating, through the release of chemicals, through exercise. And I found that the days that I don't, I feel so much worse than the days I do. And I'm not an exercise fiend. I hate exercise. You're never ever going to see me lifting weights or running or swimming. But yoga, for me, has been a real saviour. So all of those things combined, I had a really good pregnancy, and I do think it's very, very possible, through the right diet and through exercise and through rest, not only to be quite healthy after a splenectomy, but also if you're female and you're worried about, not having something that's autoimmune or ITP or infection in COVID and all of this. I managed it. I did it. It was scary. I haven't had any support or any help. There's not been any classes open or anywhere I can really go and speak to other people. It did feel like I was doing it alone, but I felt in control of the situation to the most extent, because I made choices that were really good for me. And that's what it's about, really, I think, is trial and error until you find what works for you, and then really believe in it and stick to it and be strong about it, because it does help. I don't care what doctors want to put me on. At one point I was on 4 antibiotics at the same time, and each antibiotic was just dealing with the side effects of the last one. And I was so sick. I could feel my body just running down, because it's not natural. And there are things you can do, and that don't require medication. I'm not saying you shouldn't take proper antibiotics if you get an infection. That's different. But on a day-to-day basis, you do not need to live your life like that. And if any women are going through the process of being pregnant during COVID or pregnant after having ITP, happy to talk to you. The only thing I will say is I tried to do natural birth, thinking that I was super healthy and I could do it. I wanted a water birth. And actually when it came down to it, I am really healthy now, but I'm still a fragile body that needs things kept very balanced. And giving birth, going through labour is a massive ordeal. And anything can, if you've got autoimmune related stuff, anything can set you off balance. And I did have a very difficult birth, and I did pick up an infection, and I should have listened, and I should never have tried for natural birth. I'm not saying that other women can't, but for me it wasn't right for the amount of kind of stressful medical history that I have. I wasn't really strong enough to put myself through that, because I was in labour for 4 days and he was on my spine and my disc. It felt like I couldn't move my back because my discs were hurting so much, and it's taken me a long time to recover. So the one thing I would say is don't try and be a hero in that respect, is that when things are serious, just remember that you do need a little bit of help, and that is okay as well. It's not about trying to force your body to do things it can't. It's about knowing that your body can be your strength again. You don't have to fear it and just drug it all the time. There is a middle ground where you can be protected but also in charge, in control of your body again. So that's it from me. It's been a long journey. I know I've only made a couple of videos, but I didn't feel like there was any point until I had something new to say. And it really just takes time to figure out what works best for you. And that's another thing, stick with things. You know, your body needs time and rest. And if you give it good things and you listen to your instincts rather than just what doctors tell you, you can improve things for yourself. I hope that some of the things I've said are useful, and that you can try them and they work for you. And as I said, if anyone wants to talk to me about living without a spleen during COVID, because that's never mentioned on the list of medical conditions, you know, for immune suppressed. Splenectomy is not on there, so it's not really acknowledged. Neither is ITP. So if you want to talk about that, pregnancy, or any of these other things that I've had going on, just drop me a message or a comment. I hope everyone's keeping safe, and thanks for watching.